My boyfriend called me his personal assistant with benefits at a party and blocked the door when I tried to leave. When I emptied our joint account and donated everything, he started threatening me. Now his parents won't stop calling, so there. I was, standing in this bougie apartment with a plastic cup of whatever craft IPA was trendy that month, watching my boyfriend of 3 years turn into someone I didn't recognize. The party was at his coworker Mark's place. You know, the kind with exposed brick walls and furniture that looks uncomfortable, but costs more than your car. Jason had been knocking back drinks since we arrived. Not sloppy drunk at first, just that loud, performative confidence guys get when they're trying to impress their work buddies. I was chatting with Mark's girlfriend in the kitchen about her new job when I heard Jason's voice cut through the party noise. Guys, let me tell you about my setup at home, he announced to a circle of his coworkers. She's basically my personal assistant with benefits. Good for cleaning bathrooms and paying rent, but otherwise useless. The words hit me like a bucket of ice water. Everything went quiet in my head while his buddies chuckled. I stood frozen, cup halfway to my lips, hoping I'd misheard. But nope, Jason was on a roll. I mean, look at her, he continued, gesturing toward me with his beer. Pretty enough to show off, domesticated enough to keep around. The perfect combo, am I right? More laughter. Mark looked uncomfortable but said nothing. I set my drink down and walked over, my face burning. We should go, I said quietly. That's when Jason's expression changed. He grabbed my wrist, not violently, but firmly enough that I couldn't easily pull away. Sit down. Look at her, pathetic, isn't she? He announced to the room. Can't take a joke. Always so sensitive. I yanked my arm free and headed for the door, but Jason somehow beat me there. He leaned against it, blocking my exit, and pulled my wallet from my purse that he'd somehow gotten hold of. What are you gonna do? Uber home? He waved my wallet, in the air. With what money? The party had gotten awkwardly quiet. A few people looked away, pretending to be deep in conversation. Others watched with that weird voyeuristic interest people get when witnessing a train wreck. Jason, stop being a jerk, Mark finally said. Let her go if she wants to leave. We came together, we leave together, Jason replied with that fake smile I now realized I'd seen too many times before. Then he walked back to the couch and sat down like nothing had happened, pocketing my wallet. I spent the next 2 hours in Mark's bathroom, splashing water on my face and texting my sister. When I came out, Jason was passed out on the couch. Mark helped me get him to an Uber, apologizing the whole time. I didn't say much. My mind was already racing ahead to what needed to happen next. The next morning, Jason had a killer hangover and no memory of what he'd said. Or so he claimed. Babe, you know I think the world of you, he mumbled, chugging Gatorade on the couch. If I said anything stupid, it was just the booze talking. I nodded and made him breakfast. Then I waited until he fell back asleep. Update. Hey everyone, thanks for the support. It's wild how many of you have been in similar situations. Someone asked if there were warning signs before this. Honestly, looking back, there were red flags everywhere, but they were so gradual I didn't notice. Now I'm wondering, would you have confronted him right there at the party or played it cool like I did? What I did next might surprise you. While Jason snored on the couch, I got busy. First stop, our shared laptop. I went straight to our joint bank account, the one we'd opened 6 months ago when we moved in together, the one where my entire paycheck went while his contributed when he could. The balance, $16,184.29. About $15,000 of that was mine. I transferred every penny to my personal account, which Jason didn't have access to. Then I systematically went through our apartment, making an inventory of what I'd brought into the relationship versus what he'd contributed. The tally was eye-opening. The furniture? Mine. The TV and sound system? Mine. Even the fancy coffee maker he bragged about to his friends was a Christmas gift from my parents. By noon, I had 3 piles. Stuff that was definitely mine, stuff that was definitely his, and stuff we'd bought together. That third pile was suspiciously small. While Jason kept snoring, man could sleep through the apocalypse when he was hungover, I called my sister Tara. About time, she said, when I told her what happened. That dude's been treating you like his mom since day one. Tara lived across town with her husband in a house with a spare bedroom. By 3 p.m., she and her husband Mike had pulled up in their pickup truck, and we loaded everything that was unquestionably mine. What about the shared stuff? Tara asked, pointing to that small third pile. I looked at the collection of kitchen gadgets, framed photos, and random decor we'd accumulated together. Then I opened the Goodwill donation app on my phone. Schedule a pickup, I said. All of it. The Goodwill truck arrived at 4:30. By then, we'd cleared out everything that mattered to me, leaving Jason with his clothes, his PlayStation, and not much else. The donation guys were loading the last of the shared items when Jason finally stirred. What's that noise? He mumbled, then shot up from the couch. What the hell is happening? He stood there in his boxers and wrinkled t-shirt, looking from the half-empty apartment to me to the Goodwill truck outside. What did you do? He shouted, fully awake now. I'm leaving, I said simply. And I'm taking what's mine. You can't. Just... He grabbed his phone, probably to check our joint account. His face went from angry to shocked in about 3 seconds flat. The money? All of it? My money, I corrected. Check the deposit history. While he frantically scrolled through the banking app, I picked up my last bag and headed for the door. You'll regret this, he called after me. I made you. You were nothing before me. Nothing. I got into Tara's truck without looking back. As we pulled away, my phone started blowing up with texts from Jason. I silenced it and stared out the window, feeling lighter with every block we put between us. The next morning, the real fallout began. Jason's parents started calling. First my cell, then Tara's when I didn't answer. Apparently, according to Jason, I'd stolen his money and possessions in the middle of the night, leaving him destitute. He'd conveniently left out the part about publicly humiliating me and holding my wallet hostage. You need to talk to them eventually, Tara said as my phone lit up for the 20th time that day. No, I don't, I replied, but found myself answering when Mrs. Davidson called again that evening. How could you do this to him? She demanded, skipping any greeting. After everything he's done for you? I took a deep breath. Mrs. Davidson, with all due respect, your son called me his personal assistant with benefits in front of all his friends, blocked me from leaving a party, and took my wallet. That's after 3 years of me supporting him financially and emotionally while he, what exactly? Played video games and criticized my cooking? Silence on the other end. The money I took was mine. Check the bank statements if you don't believe me. The furniture was mine. I donated our shared possessions to Goodwill because, honestly, starting over feels better than holding on to anything from that relationship. He's threatening to sue you, she said, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. For what? His name's not on my personal account. We're not married. The apartment lease is in my name. He can try, but maybe ask him how he plans to pay a lawyer. Update. Wow, this blew up overnight. To the person who asked if his parents knew what kind of son they raised, that's exactly what I'm dealing with now. They've gone from threatening to sue to offering money for me to just talk to him. His mom actually said, he's just not himself without you. My sister says that's code for he can't function as an adult alone. The real question now is, should I meet with them? Jason's latest text says he knows where I live and won't be ignored. I'm starting to wonder if I should be worried. The next few days were a blur of blocked numbers, changed passwords, and long talks with Tara over cheap wine. I notified my workplace about the situation, asked them to not let Jason into the building, and took a week of personal leave. The high HR lady had been through something similar and was incredibly supportive. Jason's texts ranged from apologetic, "Baby, please, I was drunk, I didn't mean it," to menacing, "You'll regret crossing me," to pathetic, "I had to borrow money from my parents to eat." I documented everything, but didn't respond. 5 days after I left, I was helping Tara with dinner when the doorbell rang. Mike answered it, then came into the kitchen looking concerned. "It's Jason's parents," he said quietly. "Both of them." Tara immediately went into protective mode. "Tell them to get lost or we're calling the cops." I shook my head. "No, I'll talk to them. On the porch. With you guys watching from inside." Mr. and Mrs. Davidson looked older than I remembered. They stood awkwardly on Tara's porch, Mrs. Davidson clutching her purse like it might run away. "Thank you for seeing us," Mr. Davidson said formally. "We wanted to talk face to face." "We're worried about Jason," Mrs. Davidson cut in. "He's not eating, barely sleeping. He lost his job yesterday for showing up late 3 days in a row." I leaned against the porch railing, keeping my distance. "I'm sorry to hear that, but that's not my responsibility anymore." "He made a mistake," Mr. Davidson said. "A big one, yes, but don't you think this punishment is extreme? Taking everything, leaving him with nothing?" "I took what was mine," I repeated. "And I'm not punishing him. I'm protecting myself." Mrs. Davidson opened her purse and pulled out an envelope. "We're prepared to compensate you for your inconvenience. If you'd just talk to him, help him get back on his feet." I stared at the envelope, feeling a strange mix of anger and pity. "You've been doing this his whole life, haven't you? Cleaning up his messes, making his problems go away." They exchanged glances but didn't deny it. "I'm not taking your money," I said. "And I'm not talking to Jason. Not now, probably not ever. What happened at that party wasn't a drunk mistake, it was a moment of honesty. That's how he really sees me, and I deserve better." "He threatened to hurt himself," Mrs. Davidson said desperately. "Then get him help, professional help, but don't put that on me." I stood up straighter. "And tell him that if he contacts me again, or comes near my sister's house, I'll file for a restraining order." I have all his texts documented. They left without the dramatics I'd expected, just 2 defeated-looking people shuffling back to their car. I felt a pang of sympathy. They'd failed their son in fundamental ways, and now everyone was paying the price. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next day, I started apartment hunting. Tara and Mike were amazing, but I needed my own space. I found a small 1-bedroom in a secure building across town, near a coffee shop I'd always liked. The rent was manageable on my salary alone. Turns out not financially supporting a grown man frees up a lot of income. I was signing the lease when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "It's Mark from the party, Jason's coworker. Got your bahars from mutual friend. Wanted to check if you're okay. What Jason did was messed up. We're not friends anymore. Let me know if you need anything." I sent a brief but appreciative reply, then blocked the number 2. Not because Mark had done anything wrong, but because I was closing that chapter completely. Moving into my new place felt like breathing fresh air after being underwater. I bought only what I needed, splurging on just one thing. A ridiculous, comfortable armchair that was exactly my taste, and nothing like what Jason would have chosen. 2 weeks after the party, I was sitting in that chair, sipping coffee and watching the sunrise through my new curtains when my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello?" I said cautiously. "Hi, this is Andrea Simmons from the Henderson Foundation." The woman's voice was professional but warm. "Am I speaking with Lindsay Coleman?" I hadn't used my full name when making the donation, just my initials. "Yes, that's me. Ms. Coleman, I'm calling about your donation to our women's shelter program. The $8,392 you contributed last week? We normally don't reach out to anonymous donors, but the system flagged your contribution for its specific amount and the note attached." I vaguely remembered scribbling something when completing the online form for the shelter donation, half of the money I'd taken from the joint account. "I just wanted to let you know that your donation is providing emergency housing for 4 women and their children this month. Your note mentioned helping women leave bad situations, and I wanted to assure you that's exactly what your generosity is doing." Tears sprang to my eyes as Andrea detailed how the money was being used. Emergency hotel rooms until shelter space opened up, transportation vouchers, childcare so women could attend job interviews. When I hung up, I felt something I hadn't experienced in a long time: pride. Not the brittle kind that comes from maintaining appearances, but the deep, warm kind that comes from doing something worthwhile. That afternoon, I made similar donations to 3 other organizations, splitting the remaining money I'd taken from our joint account. Each one focused on helping people, mostly women, but not exclusively, escape bad relationships and build new lives. Final update, y'all. First, massive thanks for all your support and advice. Several people asked what happened with the restraining order situation. Well, turns out I didn't need one. Jason's parents finally stepped up in a way I never expected. As for me, I'm currently sitting on my new balcony watching the sunset, completely financially independent and about to start a volunteer position at the women's shelter that received my donation. They asked if I'd share my story with others. It's scary and empowering all at once. So my last question for you all, have you ever had a moment where the worst thing that happened to you somehow led to something beautiful? Because I'm living that reality right now. 3 months after the party incident, I ran into Mark again, literally bumped carts with him at the grocery store. He told me Jason had moved back in with his parents and was supposedly in therapy. His parents had finally given him an ultimatum after he showed up drunk at their house at 3 a.m., ranting about suing me. They told him get help or get out, Mark explained as we caught up in the cereal aisle. From what I hear, it was a wake-up call. I nodded, surprised at how little I cared about this information. Jason felt like a character from a TV show I'd stopped watching seasons ago. Mark and I exchanged numbers again, just as friends, and occasionally grab coffee. He's dating someone new, and I'm enjoying being completely, absolutely single. The women's shelter asked if I'd consider sharing my story at a fundraiser. Not the dramatic parts, but the after, how I rebuilt, how I discovered my own strength. I said yes, despite the butterflies in my stomach. If my experience helps even one person recognize their worth and find the courage to demand better, it's worth any temporary discomfort. My new apartment is half the size of the one I shared with Jason, but it's completely mine. I've painted the walls colors he would have hated. I leave dishes in the sink sometimes without anyone commenting. I play my music as loud as reasonable neighbor etiquette allows. Last week, I got a letter from Mrs. Davidson. No pressure, no requests. Just an apology for their part in enabling their son's behavior and gratitude for the wake-up call my leaving provided for all of them. She enclosed a check for the full amount they'd tried to offer me before, made out to the Henderson Foundation. I added my own contribution and forwarded it to Andrea. Sometimes I think about that moment at the party, when Jason called me his personal assistant with benefits. At the time, it felt like the end of the world. Now I recognize it as the beginning of something much better. My real life, on my own terms. The other day, one of the women from the shelter, now in her own apartment with her kids, brought me cookies to thank me for helping with her resume. As we sat in my little kitchen, laughing over coffee, I realized something profound. That party wasn't the worst night of my life. It was the best, because it showed me exactly who I was dealing with, in terms impossible to rationalize away. Some people say living well is the best revenge. I don't think of it as revenge anymore. I think of it as course correction. I was on the wrong path, headed toward a life of diminishing returns with someone who couldn't see my value. Now I'm exactly where I need to be, and for the first time in years, I'm not someone's anything. I'm just me, and that's more than enough.